I am somewhat willing to wager that you've never heard the name Bob Stupak before. If you have, then my entire point here has gone down the drain. Unless you haven't brushed up on your Stupak history either. If you've done that too, then I'm not sure what to tell you. But still, stick around because we're about to learn about the life of Bob Stupak here, okay? The story of Robert Edward Stupak begins on the 6th of April 1942. Born in Pittsburgh, the guy seems to have had some form of gambling around for his entire life, as his father, Chester Stupak, ran a dice game in town called the Lotus Club. Despite this, Bob was more into motorcycles, once ranking as the third fastest driver in the world. We can all see where that went. Alas, the gambling comes to us all, and as a young adult, Bob moved to Vegas, where he began a scam wherein he'd sell fake coupon books. This being Vegas, he was rather successful and could afford to move to Queensland and try his hand at the scam there. Why he thought Australia, of all places, to be a good target for this scam is a question I have yet to be able to answer. And, of course, the Australians, being smarter than the average Vegas tourist, didn't fall for it, and he was deported back to the US and continued working in Vegas under the coupon book scam. He went back to Vegas in 1971 and bought the Vault Casino downtown. He could afford to buy this mostly by selling fake coupons, I imagine. I'm not sure if he had another source of income. He renamed the vault to Glitter Gulch, which I listed a while ago as a nickname for downtown Las Vegas, which I guess, that's where that comes from, for some reason, and created a massive neon sign of a cowgirl named Vegas Vicky in 1980, since Vegas Vic was at the Pioneer Club nearby, and I guess, I don't know why he did that. As of June 2017, Vegas Vicky is no longer on Fremont Street, so we can see where that all went. They kicked her out. After he renamed the vault, he went on to buy 1.5 acres of land just north of Sahara Avenue, opening, this really was its name, Bob Stupak's world-famous historic gambling museum in March of 1974. The sign by the name for the building was about 10 feet longer than the building, so there's that. In May of the same year, by the way, a faulty air conditioning unit would burn the entire building to the ground, so now it's gone. But all was not lost, for in 1976, he was given a loan from Perry Thomas so he could rebuild on the site of the old museum. And what did he build? Bob Stupak's Vegas World. The casino would include not only the world's largest freestanding sign, but also unique ways to lose your money, that being unique gambling machines, and the first $250,000 jackpot, and later the first $1 million jackpot ever won. Both of those came later in the life, though. The casino would earn over $100 million annually in the 1980s, and its sign would be blown down in a windstorm. At the same time that Vegas World was having its peak, Stupak also donated $100,000 for a chance to play with the Harlem Globetrotters. It worked, and he donned a Globetrotter uniform and went on court shooting hoops. The event made international news. He made international news by playing basketball. On top of making international news via playing basketball, I guess, Stupak also took notes from Donald Trump and made Stupak, a board game in the same vein as Trump the Game. Apparently, he made it after Trump declined a $1 million charity offer to play his own board game. That's weird. Just a few years after this, though, he was added to the Gambling Hall of Fame. I'll give it to him. The guy would become worthy of the spot. He certainly left a legacy. On top of all this, he also ran the Vegas Vacation Club, which was a male-promoted, nearly free vacation club that included rooms, meals, and some complimentary casino play. I imagine the additional casino play that came after the complimentary one was the biggest form of revenue there. As time went on, participants returned year after year, spreading word of mouth about the club until Vegas World eventually reached 100% occupancy year-round. This was the 80s, so this is the peak that I talked about, 45 seconds ago? I don't know. Stupak was also later added as the chairman of the committee for the Olympics in Nevada in 1988, and he advocated that the Summer Olympics should be held in Las Vegas in either 1996 or 2000. Moving on from that, the guy would win several wagers against people. One of the most popular was a $1 million wager on Super Bowl 23, which he won, and would use the money to pay a daredevil $1 million to do a stunt wherein he would make a jump off the top of Vegas World. Upon landing, Stupak said, hey, that'll be $990 in landing fees, essentially actually paying him $10,000. I said the guy was, pretty legendary. He left a legacy. I never mentioned how actually nice of a person he was, considering that, he only actually paid someone $10,000 of a promised million. But in 1990, that didn't stop him from approaching the mayor and city council with his plans to construct, again, the largest freestanding sign in the world, standing at 1,800 feet tall and being a large neon sign that would tower over Vegas. However, councilman and instructor pilot Steve Miller convinced Stupak to add an observation deck to the top, taking him on a plane ride at 2,000 feet and watching the sunset over Vegas, convincing Stupak that to keep the site only to flights like this would be a sin. He immediately began reworking Stupak Tower to include the observation deck, a restaurant, and amusement rides. With the new designs, Stupak claimed that his new tower would be the new icon of Vegas, and that the Mirage would be 2 miles from him and not the other way around. By 1991, construction had begun. And in 1995, Stupak would get into a severe motorcycle accident, breaking every bone in his face and being sent into a coma. While it was initially claimed that he would not survive, his son, Nevada Stupak, what a wonderful name, had a non-FDA approved drug given to his father in order to reduce the swelling in his head and brain, leading to Stupak's successful recovery, but with lingering health issues. At the time of his crash, Stupak had developed the name Stratosphere for his tower and had invited Lyle Berman, a fellow poker player, and his company, Grand Casinos, in to be investors on the project, as it was slated to cost over $550 million to construct the thing. Grand Casinos agreed due to the now overwhelming success of gambling in the area. Although gambling had been prevalent for the past 60 years by this point, Stupak called this the most difficult decision he had ever made, as he was always the sole owner of any of his projects, the ones that, burned down and he scammed people after jumping off of the roof of. By late April of 1996, the tower was completed, being the third most expensive casino ever made in history at the time. And even though we now know the Stratosphere as what it was intended to be, the icon of the Las Vegas Strip, Stupak had left the board within the year, no longer being the chairman, and the tower was a personal financial failure, costing him over $200 million personally. After this, he would still attempt to make more Vegas projects, such as trying to buy the Moulin Rouge Hotel, and, as one of his now most famous projects, he intended to have a grand-scale hotel built in the shape of the RMS Titanic. Neither of those projects came to fruition, and none of the other ones that he ever came up with came to fruition. And alas, September 25th, 2009, Robert Stupak would pass away due to leukemia. Though his legacy would live on, as in 2016, the city would rename one block of Baltimore Avenue to Bob Stupak Avenue on April 6th, Stupak's birthday. It was a part of the 20th anniversary of the Stratosphere, which was held on the south side of the property where Stupak Avenue sits. In 1992, a community center and park opened near the Stratosphere, named after Stupak. While the community center would close in 2010 and be replaced by new Stupak Park, a larger one would open that same year, which cost $7.5 million to construct and is over 34,000 square feet large, and would celebrate its 25th anniversary in 2017. Bob Stupak's time in Vegas led to the construction of its icon. It may not be as luxurious as the Aria or Mandalay Bay, and it may not be as old and historic as Fremont Street, but it's certainly iconic. And even outside of it, Stupak's career is among the more interesting.